You know how sometimes you're just living your life, things seem okay, and then, bam, something bad happens.
Oh yeah, big or small, it hits you.
And it brings up that huge, age-old question, why? Why do bad things happen? It feels like everyone asks that at some point, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It cuts across everything. If there's supposed to be some kind of order or, a loving God, how does suffering make sense?
Exactly. And that's what we're really getting into today. We're taking a deep dive into this piece by Dorian Scott Pohl on Pathos called Ouch, Life Hurts, Why God?
Right. And it tackles that question, like head on, from a few different angles, theological, philosophical.
Our goal here for you listening is to unpack the perspectives in this specific article. We want to pull out the key ideas, especially around maybe challenging traditional views, and what the source suggests our part might be when things go wrong.
Yeah, what are the main takeaways? How can this help you think through this really tough topic? It's not about easy answers, but finding those, nuggets of insight.
Okay, let's dive in.
So the article starts right off with that classic problem, the one I think, most people wrestle with.
The big one.
Yeah. If God is supposed to be all-powerful, omnipotent, all-present, omnipresent, all-knowing, omniscient, and God is love, then why is suffering? Why is it allowed?
Right. We have this image, don't we? God on a high pedestal.
Yeah.
The creator, the controller. The source lays out these traditional terms, omnipotence and all that.
It immediately flags attention. If God is all those things and loving, how do you square that with, say, earthquakes or disease or just senseless accidents?
Cole really points out that logical bind. How can a being who is supposedly perfect love design a system with built-in harm, or even just allow it? Is it really just tough love to make us stronger? The source seems skeptical of that simple explanation.
It pushes harder, asking things like, okay, if God knows something awful is about to happen, why not step in?
Yeah, or if there's a life plan, does that plan have to include deep suffering? Does God permit suffering that seems, frankly, pointless?
The article does mention, just briefly, some ideas floating around like near-death experiences, NDEs, suggesting maybe we choose challenges beforehand.
But it doesn't really stay there long.
No, it pivots. Because maybe focusing only on what God does or doesn't do, well, it can leave us feeling like, what, just victims?
Like hapless victims, yeah. Just got to accept it all as one of God's mysteries.
But the source questions that passivity. I mean, the author uses this analogy. Even a dog knows when it's being mistreated and reacts.
That really landed with me. How can we, with our minds and hearts, just sort of shrug off genuine pain as unexplainable?
And this thinking leads to a really pivotal moment in the article. It brings in a verse from the Bible, from the prophet Amos, chapter 5, verses 23-24.
What does it say?
It's God speaking, saying something like, "Away with the noise of your song. I will not listen to the music of your harps. But let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream."
Wow. So less singing, more doing.
That's exactly how the source interprets it. God is tired of empty worship, empty rituals, if people are ignoring the suffering and injustice right in front of them.
So God wants action.
Action from us. The call is for us to fix injustice, to address suffering. It's a major shift from, why did God let this happen?
Okay, so maybe the better question isn't what should I expect from God, but rather what does God expect from me? Is that the idea?
That's precisely the direction the source takes us. And connected to that, what can I learn from this experience? Even the bad ones.
Though the source does acknowledge, sometimes the pain is just too raw, right? Learning isn't the first thing on your mind.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just have to cry out, grieve, survive. Learning might come way later. But the author's point is, eventually, we learn.
Okay, so shifting gears slightly, the article also talks about logic. About how trying to apply strict logic to faith and suffering, well, it doesn't always work.
Right. It points out that, classical logic, the kind that's very binary, true or false, yes or no, it's powerful for some things. Like science, dealing with observable facts.
But life isn't always so clear-cut.
Exactly. Life is messy. It's full of nuance, exceptions, gray areas. Binary logic struggles with that complexity. It wants neat boxes, and life doesn't fit.
Can you give an example the source uses?
Yeah, a simple one. Coaching styles. You've got your autocratic coach, very top-down. Then democratic, more collaborative. Then maybe minimal guidance, laissez-faire.
Okay.
Logic might ask, which one is the true way? Which one is right?
But they could all work, depending.
Precisely. They all can be effective. They're all true in different contexts with different teams, different goals. Life has way more variables, more parameters than just true-false.
And then you throw in free will, people doing unpredictable things.
Even if you believe God knows all the possible outcomes, the source asks, Does that mean God has to step in and control every choice to prevent any negative consequence?
That leads to another really interesting, kind of provocative question the source raises.
A pet in paradise one.
Yeah. Would we really truly be happy living a life with zero challenges? Just endless comfort and ease, like a well-cared-for pet?
It's a stark image. And the article connects it back to Adam and Eve. Were they meant for just lazy leisure?
Or were they created, as the source suggests, to be more like experimenters, to explore, to learn, to gain that knowledge of good and evil?
And that knowledge, the source says, it comes with a high price tag. It means experiencing the full spectrum, including pain and difficulty. But maybe that's what being human involves, this drive to engage, to experience, not just exist in comfort.
The article contrasts that sort of youthful boredom, is this all there is, with the idea that grappling with life's challenges makes for a much deeper and richer experience.
Right, so the fundamental question becomes, would you settle for being a pet? And what would that make us? It strongly implies we're built for more, for meaning found through the struggle, not just in spite of it.
Okay, this all seems to be building towards the author's core message, right? That slogan.
The central principle, yeah. Our answer is God. God's answer is us. Together, we make the world better. And the author stresses, I mean exactly that.
What does that mean, practically speaking?
It's the heart of the article's perspective. God is not the author of evil. Instead, we are partners, co-creators with God in how the world unfolds.
So when suffering happens because of, say, human choices or indifference or even just natural processes, it's not God sending punishment.
According to this source, no. It's more like the consequence within this shared reality we're co-creating.
Right.
God allows us to experience these consequences.
And crucially, the disaster, the suffering, it isn't meant to make us shake our fists at the sky and ask, why me? Why did you let this happen?
No. Instead, the source frames it as a call to action, a call to us, to fix it, to make it better, to respond.
That's a powerful reframe. Does the article give concrete examples of what that looks like?
It does, several. Think about car accidents. Do we just say, oh, well, God's will? No. We invent seatbelts, airbags, anti-lock brakes. We design safer roads, guardrails, lane assist, now even self-driving tech.
That's us acting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's us, in partnership, responding to a problem to make things better. It's not blaming God. It's taking responsibility within the system.
What about harm caused by other people?
We don't just accept it. We create systems of justice, police, courts. We try to help victims, seek restitution. Again, that's our active response.
And natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, the earth just does what it does, right?
The physical world follows its own laws, yeah. It doesn't give consideration to people, as the source puts it. But what do? Scientists study these things, develop warning systems.
So people can get out of the way.
Right. That's framed as social justice, our collective action to mitigate harm.
The source links other issues too, like drought and fires.
To human action on climate change, or disease,
compelling us to find cures.
and systemic injustice.
Calling us to reform those systems. All framed as social justice, as answering that call to action.
The consistent message coming through is, every tragedy, every bit of suffering, isn't just something to endure. It's a call from God to us to do something, to make it right or make it better.
And doing something, taking that action, is presented as an act of love.
Yes, it's the practical application of love and compassion in the face of suffering, not just passive acceptance.
So pulling it all together at the end, how does the source summarize this perspective?
Well, it reiterates, we live in a physical universe. Stuff happens because of nature and physics. The environment changes, sometimes tragically, without regard for us.
And our path through life may be chosen, may be guided, but ultimately,
We don't know for certain. But what is emphasized is that people are not controlled by God. We aren't puppets.
our choices matter. And the consequences, good or bad, they teach us.
Right. Consequences are learning opportunities. God guides, the source suggests, but doesn't hijack our will.
So even if there's a plan, human actions, injustice, indifference can mess things up.
They can absolutely interrupt it or cause disaster. But the source also holds on to hope that with God, all things are possible, regarding finding a way forward despite those interruptions.
Which brings us back to those core questions the source wants us to ask ourselves.
Exactly. Not why did God allow this, but what does God expect from us? And what can we learn from our experiences? Those are the forward-looking, active questions.
The author adds a few other thoughts too, like about breaking cycles of hate.
Reinforcing that our actions have ripple effects, and then repeats that core slogan one last time. Our answer is God. God's answer is us. Together we make the world better.
There was also a brief mention of probability space and potential space.
Yeah, it seemed like a way to open our minds to the possibilities that emerge when we actually step up and take action. When we accept the challenge, new potential opens up. It underscores our agency.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive into Dorian Scott Cole's article, the big shift it offers is moving away from simply questioning why God permits suffering.
And towards seeing suffering sometimes as a natural consequence or a result of human choices, but critically, always as a call to action. A call for us to partner with God, to fix things, to fight injustice, to act with love.
It really puts the onus on you, the listener. It highlights your agency, your responsibility, and how you respond, working alongside God's guidance rather than just waiting for divine intervention.
So if we take that idea seriously, that tragedies are calls to action, maybe the question for you becomes, what specific call might be right there in your own life, your own community, right now?
And how might changing your primary question from why did this happen to, okay, what can I do about this now, actually shift your perspective and maybe even your actions? That's definitely something to mull over.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.